Before we get into this week's video, I wanted to let you guys know about a super easy way that you can grow your Amazon wholesale business in under 3 minutes per week. And so that is going to be by subscribing to my newsletter, which is going to be in the description below. It's called the Amazon Wholesale Newsletter. And once a week, I send out an email to over 2,000 people that includes just one super actionable, super easy to implement tip that can really help you scale your wholesale business a lot quicker. So if you're interested in signing up for that newsletter, like I said, the link is going to be in the description below. And with that said, let's get right into this video. Working directly with brands can be one of the easiest and most effective ways to scale your wholesale business in 2023. So in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly the types of brands that we look to work with. And I'm going to even give you an example of a good brand that you could even reach out to within your own business. So before we get into this video, if you wouldn't mind taking a quick second, like the video, leave a comment if this, call it a checklist if you will, helped you, and then subscribe for more videos just like this because I come out with 3 videos just like this every week. So like I said in the beginning of this video, working directly with brands, in my opinion, is going to be the future of Amazon wholesale. It's also one of the really the easier ways to get your foot in the door with some of these suppliers and get some products to start selling in your wholesale business. So I'm going to give you guys really the checklist that we use to verify if a brand is worth reaching out to. And then I'm going to show you an example, like I said, of a brand that meets this criteria so that you can see this checklist in action. So really at the end of the day, the first thing that you want to verify when it comes to a potential brand that you might be looking to work with is you want to make sure that there is existing FBA competition on most of their listings. Now, this might seem kind of backwards because you might be thinking, well, why would I want competition on the products I'm selling? But the reason we look for existing FBA competition is because we know that if there are existing FBA sellers selling that brand and working with that brand, then that means that that brand is open to having third-party sellers, right? So by the nature of there being competition, we know that there's room for possibly one more person like us so that we could get our foot in the door and start carrying that brand as well. All right, so competition in this context is a good thing, not a bad thing. We look for it. We want to see ideally at least 3 to 4 existing FBA sellers across most of a brand's products in order for it to meet this criteria. Now, the second criteria that we want these brands to meet is we want to make sure that at least for the majority of their products, they're not dominated by Amazon. All right, so some brands, as most of you may know, sell their products straight to Amazon. So when you click on the listing, it says sold by Amazon, shipped by Amazon. Now, it can be an entire model in and of itself to contact brands that are currently working with Amazon and try to convince them to work with you instead as a third-party seller. But that model's a little more advanced and it's a little out of the scope of this video. So we're looking for products where the brand doesn't have an existing relationship with Amazon, right? We want that brand to have an existing stable of third-party sellers on the listings that, like I said in the first point, that we could come in and be one of those third-party sellers. So we look for brands that are not dominated by Amazon. And now the third thing, and arguably the most important point in my opinion, is when we're reaching out to these brands and when we're deciding which brands to work with, we want there to be a barrier to entry. And again, this point might sound a little backwards as well because you might think, well, why would we want there to be a barrier to entry? Wouldn't it be easier if they just let us sell from the first interaction? Well, yes, that'd be easier up front, but in my experience, having contacted close to 3,000 suppliers in the last 4.5 years, is that the best brands by far are the ones that tell you no initially, right? They put up that barrier to entry. They don't just let anybody off the street buy from them and sell their products. You want to have to build that relationship. You want to have to follow up 10, 20, 50, 100 times, sometimes is how much it takes to get your foot in the door with these brands. And the reason you want that barrier to entry is that if you spend all this time and all this legwork providing value just to get your foot in the door with these brands, that everybody else behind you is going to get shut down by that brand, right? That brand is not just going to let some random person after you come on and sell their products because they haven't put in the same amount of work in building that relationship and building that rapport with that brand. So a barrier to entry, like I said, is in my opinion the most important criteria here on this list. So you want to make sure it exists, especially for the people that are coming behind you. All right, so that is the 3 criteria. Now let's take a quick look at a product and a brand that meets this criteria so that you guys can see this in action. So when I share my screen here we have a brand, it's called Bruce Foods, okay? And now this particular listing and this particular brand meets our criteria for a couple of reasons. So the first criteria is that, like we said, we want to make sure that that this product is not dominated by, or sorry, we want to make sure that there's existing FBA competition on this listing, right? And that is exactly what we see. So we're seeing, according to DS Amazon Quick View, which is a free Chrome extension, that there's currently 4 or more FBA sellers on this listing. All right, so like we said, FBA competition on a listing is a good thing. So it meets that first criteria. Now, the second criteria is we want to make sure, like we said, that Amazon is not dominating these listings. So when we hover over the listing title and our Keepa graph shows up in the bottom right, I know that right now my picture is covering the Keepa graph. So let's open it in a new tab. And let's scroll down here to the Keepa graph. And so we just want to make sure that Amazon is not dominating the listing more than, let's just say, 6 months out of the last year. And so I'm not seeing Amazon on this listing at all. And if I look back at the entire 2,729 days that this product has been available for sale on Amazon, I don't see Amazon on this listing at all, even once. All right, so it definitely meets the second criteria in that Amazon is not dominating this listing, and this listing appears to be the main listing for Bruce Foods. In fact, this looks to be really the only product of theirs that's selling well, aside from just a couple of variations of the same product. So again, it meets criteria 1 and it meets criteria 2. Now, as far as there being a barrier to entry in getting an account with this brand, we don't know yet because we have not reached out to this brand and we haven't asked them if we can open a wholesale account with them. But for those of you watching this video, this could be a great opportunity to reach out to Bruce Foods and see if they put up a barrier to entry, right, for you to get that account. If they just grant you an account immediately, let you sell the product, give you pricing, and let you go at it, then chances are they're not going to be a good long-term fit. If, however, they don't let you open an account right away, if you have to get through a couple of levels of decision makers to get to someone that can make that decision for you, if those barriers exist, then chances are they meet that third criteria, and then chances are they could be a good potential brand to work with. So that is it for the brand direct criteria that we look for. So to summarize, the first thing we look for is we look for existing FBA competition. The second thing we look for is we look for listings that are not dominated by Amazon. And the third thing we look for is we look for that barrier to entry when contacting those brands. We don't want them to just give us an account right off the bat, because if they do, then that means that's how they'll give anybody an account right off the bat. So I hope this video was helpful. If it was, be sure to subscribe for more videos just like this. Follow me on Twitter at GanumCorey, and then you could follow me on all the other social platforms at Corey Ganum. So I'm on Instagram, connect with me on LinkedIn, and follow me on TikTok. And with that said, thank you so much, and I'll be back next week with a brand new video just like this.